He has also spoken 5 times at the annual Roswell UFO conference and at many other UFO conferences throughout the United States and Mexico. So it's with great pleasure I present via Skype from his home, Torres, and let's see if I can get you up on the screen here, Norrie.
All right. Let's do that. Thank you.
Hello, Norrie.
Hello, everybody. I want to do a little sound checking first before I launch off there. Does everything seem okay, Ken? Are we doing good?
Yes, I got thumbs up from everybody, Norrie, so we got that.
Excellent. So you all can see me, hear me, and the slide presentation is up on the first slide. And let me know, Ken, when we're ready to actually start.
You gonna push the slide from your side, or you want me to follow you from here?
I'm gonna need you to change the slides for me there.
Okay, let me.
That's okay.
Let me work this.
It'll give you a minute there to.
You've never had a problem like this before, no again.
I am just amazed at the technology that you are employing for this meeting. That's fantastic. We never did anything quite like this in South Texas.
We're going to see your slides, but we're not going to see your pretty face.
That's fine.
So you talk and I'll push.
Very good. Okay, are we on the, I can't quite see the screen there, Ken.
Can you see it?
Not sure if you can angle the camera down and to your right a little bit.
I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to flip the camera around.
A little bit to your right.
I can't see you. For some reason I can't see my camera on my side. Can you see?
I'm okay right there. Yeah, I'm okay right there. That's good.
All right, sir. Let's hope this works.
Well, we're pioneers tonight, Ken, and this is a very good undertaking. So that screen is a bit, has a lot of glare, but is that the cover of my book and the title of my presentation?
Yes, this is your first slide, and
okay, very good. Well, first of all, once again, I want to thank you all for having me tonight by Skype. This is a unique way to do a presentation. I have held a lot of meetings over time and have never attempted anything so brave. So Ken, you are to be commended, and appreciate you very much. We have been having a series of UFO conferences over the years throughout South Texas, and Ken has really helped us in spreading publicity about them. And so, Ken, I don't think I've ever properly thanked you for that, but I know we've gotten a lot of visitors at our conferences from the San Antonio area who have found out through you and your acquaintances, so thank you for that. In the spring, we are going to be having our 7th annual Edinburgh UFO conference down here in the Rio Grande Valley. We were recently ranked number 3 top UFO festival, actually in the world, by Listverse, and we were very excited to get that honor. We've had some of the leading UFO researchers and dignitaries up here at our conference. Everyone from Stanton Friedman to Travis Walton to just you name it, and we've had an amazingly fantastic lineup of speakers. So we'll be having in 2018, on March 31st, the last day of March, and the evening before the 30th, we'll be having our 7th annual Edinburgh UFO Conference. And if anyone's interested in making plans to attend, we would love to have you down here. And our website is edinburghufo.com. Tonight I'm going to be talking about a topic that I spoke at the UFO Congress, the International UFO Congress, just a few months ago. And I'm not going to cover the entirety of my book. I told several stories from it and gave several examples of UFO encounters from the Old West period of American history at the UFO Congress. But tonight I'm going to focus on one particular case, which is a chapter from my book. And the chapter is called Bigfoot from Outer Space. And when we did the research for this book, which, by the way, you're going to hear from my close friend and co-author, Ruben Uriarte, who is the MUFON director for Northern California. And just yesterday, I captured some video of Ruben talking about this particular case. He is from the Northern California area and has done a lot of research into the Bigfoot phenomenon. And so he'll be talking about, giving us his opinions as well. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the first slide of the actual presentation now. And I'm going to talk about the fact that what a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't really realize until I started putting this book together, is that there have actually been many cases throughout history of UFOs being associated with Bigfoot sightings. And I really wasn't fully cognizant of this, as I say, until I started doing research for this particular chapter in Real Cowboys and Aliens. And what's very, very interesting about this case that I bring you tonight is that it happened in 1888. Now that's way before the Bigfoot sightings became commonplace, so to speak, became more common. I believe in the 60s was when Bigfoot really started being, noticed to any extent. But what's really unusual is that the creature that we commonly refer to as Bigfoot, many people believe, actually, and a lot has been written about the fact that he possibly is not native to planet Earth, as one might conjecture from looking, by his appearance, judging by his appearance. And in fact, some people believe that Bigfoot may have been dropped off on our planet by ETs. So with that thought in mind, we're going to explore this case from 1888. Ken, can we advance the slide there to the next one? And I don't know if you have access to the keyboard there.
I am, and I'm ready to run Ruben's video when you're ready.
Oh, are we already on Ruben's video?
We can be.
Go ahead and run that.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Ruben Uriarte. I'm the State Director for Northern California MUFON. It's an honor to be with you folks today. I want to thank you folks as well as my good friend and fellow colleague and researcher, Noah Torres. I've been working with Noe for the past 10 years or more now, and we've been doing research and writing books on some variety of topics, specifically what's been occurring along the U.S.-Mexico border. And we come across some fascinating cases, and one of them, of course, is Bigfoot. And Noe has put together a wonderful presentation called Bigfoot from Outer Space. And we'll be sharing about an interesting case that has appeared here in my neck of the woods, here in Humboldt County, about an observation made by a ranch owner who saw a Bigfoot creature among Native Americans. So it was a great presentation, and the fact that there is a possibility that there is a UFO Bigfoot connection.
So on the next slide, you'll see an artist representation of Bigfoot. And let me just go back to saying that people in the Old West actually on many occasions reported seeing large, furry, humanoid beings like this. And what's really interesting is when you explore the mythology, the legends of the North American tribes of that time period, there were many of their legends and tales that told of these hairy giants, or they may have used the phrase, which we're going to be familiar with tonight, crazy bears. This was another term that they used for these hairy humanoid beings. So a lot of the tales that the Native American Indians told were kind of strange, and they range from the tale we're going to hear tonight, where the creatures were very docile and did not seem to pose any threat at all, to other tales in which the Bigfoot were actually more aggressive. And some people even suggested that perhaps they were cannibals. Now, the strangest Bigfoot story, and the one I'm going to tell tonight, actually comes from a journal. If we go to the next slide there, that shows the cover of the book by Brad Steiger. This story comes from a journal written by a gentleman named Mr. Wyatt. Now, we don't have his first name. His first name was not covered in the information about this, but he was a cattleman in California in the 1800s. And the story appeared in my friend Brad Steiger's book, Real Monsters, Gruesome Critters, and Beasts from the Dark Side. Now, it had been told by Brad on several previous publications, but this is the current publication in which he elaborates a little bit more about it. And in the next slide, I just have a quick comment I'd like to share with you from that book, in which Brad Steiger writes, "Some years ago, James C. Wyatt of Memphis, Tennessee, sent me a copy of his grandfather's journal, which contained fascinating and startling entries written in a straightforward fashion. In a journal dated 1888, Wyatt's grandfather reported he was somewhere along the Humboldt line in the Big Woods country, which once again is Northern California, where his father and several cowhands had wintered with a local tribe after delivering cattle to a fort further north. Grandfather Wyatt was fluent in many tribal languages, proficient in sign language, and he partook most of the tribal activities, according to the account given to us by Brad Steiger." Now, this next slide that you'll see in a second, you're going to see a map on the left side, a map of the area where this occurred. Once again, probably the most recognizable city there, if you might notice, is Eureka, California. But this is generally the area of Humboldt County. There in the pictures on the right, you see what the terrain looks like, the forested terrain looks like. And in a moment, on the next slide, we're going to hear my good friend, Northern California MUFON Director Ruben Piate, who is actually going to tell us about Humboldt County and the surrounding area, because that actually falls within his jurisdiction as Northern California MUFON Director. So let's hear Ruben's comments about what that area is like and how it has been, for many years, has been steeped in lore about UFOs and Bigfoot.
The Pacific Northwest is an area that is known for Bigfoot sightings and also UFO sightings. And what I find really fascinating about this case here is the fact that it happened not that far from where I live, but secondly, it's an area that is quite frequented by Bigfoot sightings. Humboldt is a county that lies right along the Pacific West. That whole upper region of Northern California is basically remote mountains and forests in many key areas. As you're aware, we do have fires, and many times that's where California is known for, unfortunately, sometimes for these immense fires. But at the same time, There's a number of national parks, as well as frequented by tourism. And in many respects, we have hikers and people that are walking in the woods, and people would be frequently would run into a Bigfoot. So it's an area that has its mysteries as well as its unique features in the environment here in Northern California.
Okay, so Ruben is very familiar with that area. In fact, one of the books that he and I wrote together a few years back is called Aliens in Torres. And it's about a case that took place in the area close to where this occurred, a little bit south of Humboldt County. And so we did a lot of research in that area, also heavily forested. The Tahoe National Forest is where the incident occurred that we talked about in Aliens in the Forest. But anyway, going back to the 1800s, I just want to set the scene quickly that in the 1800s, when this incident occurred, there was a dwindling population of Native Americans. In the 1840s, Northern California, actually all of California, had between 70,000 and 100,000 Native Americans, and slightly more than 800 Anglo-Americans, or white people. So once gold was discovered in the state, that was what caused this population shift to happen rather dramatically. The Native Americans were not seen as a threat or a problem prior to that, but once with the coming of the gold rush, then the Native Americans kind of became an inconvenience to the white settlers, unfortunately. As we'll see in this next slide, are we looking at the Indian tribal distribution slide there, Ken?
Yeah, you can't see it.
Yeah, you've got the tribal territories up in the right-hand corner. It's probably hard to see on your screen, but there was quite a distribution of tribes throughout Northern California in the area where the events that I'm talking about tonight occurred. And that's just a map, and then some images of what the natives of that area look like. Going on to the next slide, we're going to get to the actual events of this interesting case from 1888. As I mentioned, James Wyatt's grandfather told Brad Steiger that in his grandfather's journal, actually, I should say that James Wyatt, whose grandfather lived in the 1800s, in his journal, there's an account about how one day he came upon a man from the tribe carrying a large platter of meat, of raw meat. At first, the man seemed afraid to answer Wyatt's questions concerning what he was up to, but he finally told the cattleman to follow him and that he would show him, attentively eating its meat. And in fact, Wyatt said that he went back to visit the creature on more than a dozen different occasions, and there was never any aggression or any problems. Now, unfortunately, as much research as we could do on a case that happened so long ago, there were no additional details about what did in fact occur on his subsequent visits to go see the creature. And Mr. Wyatt, grandfather Wyatt, never actually said if he tried to communicate with the creature in any way. Now, once again, what Ruben Uriarte and I find very interesting is the Native Americans' very passive and very welcoming attitude toward these strange-looking beasts. And in this next slide, Ruben Uriarte is going to comment on why he thinks Native American culture was so welcoming of a strange being like this. Let's listen.
Native Americans had a deep respect for nature and for the environment and for the animal life, and they consider Bigfoot as being the spiritual being, almost like a brother to them in many ways, and also a supernatural or supernatural, but also a spiritual base as well. So with that, they had various names that they would honor Bigfoot in terms of through pictures, depictions of Bigfoot, through petroglyphs, sometimes they even totem poles. You would see carvings of what they would see as this creature that is human, but then again, perhaps animals, but it had a consciousness. It had supposedly powerful psychic abilities that some of the native elders had also believed in. So it was a being that certainly had a great influence on Native American culture.
So, what's really interesting is that they were so, as I said, so welcoming of these creatures, because apparently more than one were dropped off in the area. And, you know, they accommodated them in every way. They helped them, you know, feed them, and they took care of them. And they believed that these creatures were endowed with what they called powerful magic. Well, Grandfather Wyatt was so curious about what the origin of these creatures might be, and then he kept pestering his Native American friends to tell him where these creatures came from. And actually, he ended up having to ante up some real goods. He traded one of his Native American friends, 2 pounds of tobacco, an axe, and a compass, if the tribesman would tell him, you know, what the origin of these creatures was. And so that's what happened. So one of the men from the tribe took Wyatt aside and said, I will show you. And then he and Grandfather Wyatt walked to a very high pinnacle of rock nearby on a clear night. And then Grandfather Wyatt heard this amazing story, which we're about to relate to you. Let's go on to the next slide here, the one that has the spherical UFO picture.
Okay.
As it turns out, these creatures, which were called crazy bears by the Native Americans, they have been brought to the big woods from the stars. A small metallic or silvery moon had flown down out of the sky like a swooping eagle and had landed on a plateau a few miles away from the tribe's encampment. The beast in the cave and 2 other crazy bears had been flung out of the moon before the craft had once again soared off to the stars. Now, this was an amazing story. Ruben and I puzzled over that a really long time. And in the next slide, we get a little bit more of a picture from Mr. Wyatt, who lived back in the 1800s. The man told Wyatt that other crazy bears had been left in the vicinity over the years. Wyatt's guide and several of his fellow villagers had occasionally seen the men who put the crazy bears off the small moon ship. They did not look like the giant hairy ones at all. These were the humanoid beings who were in the ship. They did not look like the hairy ones, the crazy bears. They appeared to be more like men. They looked like actual men. And now this is very interesting. The men from this craft had much shorter hair than the tribespeople, and they wore shiny clothing. Now, if you think back to the 1800s, it would have been extremely unusual for us, to see someone with very short, well-kept hair and someone that's wearing some kind of tight-fitting shiny silver suit, which was reported to be what these individuals were wearing. So, and here's the last part of this account from Brad Steiger's book, which is totally fascinating. These humanoids from the small moon, from the small ship, they always waved to the Indians in a friendly manner before they closed the door in their small moon and flew back to the stars. Now that's another amazing thing that just kind of defies explanation. So I asked Ruben, my friend, in the next slide, to give you his take on these strange appearing humanoid beings with short hair and very tight silver suits. So let's hear what Ruben has to say.
Now, in the Bigfoot community, come across researchers and other materials that think Bigfoot might be that of a prehistoric ape, maybe a descendant of what was once called the Gigantopithecus. And then on the other hand, there are so many other cases where they see a Bigfoot that will be all of a sudden disappear or vanish into thin air, almost as it's going through another dimension. So to think what it is until we can actually capture one, or until we can get more visible proof, I think that there will always be that mystery. And then again, there might be that whole connection that, yeah, they are brought to Earth, that they were genetically altered for whatever conditions, whatever reasons. There's a variety of theories out there. But I think that we just need to keep an open mind.
So we have to keep an open mind, as Ruben says. In the next slide, there was another part of the story that we found extremely interesting, and that was from Brad Steiger's book again, in which James Wyatt, who is a descendant of Mr. Wyatt, who had this encounter, James Wyatt told Brad Steiger, "Who is to say the Crazy Bears weren't exiled to our planet for some crime or other infraction of the laws of another planet? On the other hand, it is not inconceivable that the hairy ones are the food animals, in other words, the livestock or the cattle of some distant world that may have been planted here on Earth to produce more herds of their kind, and that they have not proliferated in great numbers, maybe due to their inability to provide for themselves, especially if they have been kept as produce animals for generations." So, another interesting point there. And in the next slide, we add the additional comment that maybe these visitors who rode the small silver spherical spaceships, maybe they picked up the apes, experimented on them, genetically altered them somehow, and then returned them to the Earth. For what purpose, we're not completely sure. And in the next slide, my friend Ruben again has some comments about the possibility that these may be genetically modified creatures taken from our own planet, modified genetically, and then brought back. Let's listen to Ruben's comments.
Now, in the Bigfoot community, come across researchers and other materials that think Bigfoot might be that of a prehistoric ape, maybe a descendant of what was once called the Gigantopithecus. And then on the other hand, there are so many other cases where they see a Bigfoot that will be all of a sudden disappear or vanish into thin air, almost as it's going through another dimension. So what it is until we can actually capture one, or until we can get more visible proof, I think that there'll always be that mystery. And again, there might be that whole connection that, yeah, they are brought for speak to Earth, if they were genetically altered, for whatever conditions, whatever reasons. There's a variety of theories out there. But I think that we need to keep an open mind.
Okay, now, the story of the Crazy Bears back in 1888 is, of course, not the only story where Bigfoot and UFOs are associated. There have been many other Bigfoot sightings that have occurred at the same places and the same times where UFOs have also been spotted. In fact, some witnesses have even claimed to have seen a Bigfoot creature vanish into thin air as if it had stepped into another dimension through some kind of portal. And some people speculate that maybe that's why a Bigfoot has never actually been captured. Going on to the next slide, if the story told in Wyatt's diary is true, then maybe Bigfoot really does come from outer space. It's certainly noteworthy that in many cases Bigfoot-type creatures have been seen loitering around the area of significant UFO sightings. In many cases, the Crazy Bear story, the Crazy Bear story is one of the Old West most interesting tales concerning UFOs and mysterious creatures. And that's how we told it in our book, The Real Cowboys and Aliens. Now, I have, time permitting, I'm going to do a time check with Kenny here. I have some more recent cases of where UFOs and Bigfoot creatures have been spotted at the same time. How are we doing on the time there, Ken?
Hey, you're good on time, Lloyd, so go ahead and continue.
All right, be sure to give me some kind of indication if we're getting near the end. But on the next slide, which I think is already up, is the Andes Mountains in Chile. And at first I wanted to show you this happened in 1981, and I wanted to show you the newspaper headline that ran at the time. The title of it is Bigfoot-like Space Alien Lands with Flying Saucer on Isolated Mountain. And if we'll go to the next slide, I'll break down just briefly the story for you. This incident was witnessed by two men, a Chilean architect and a judge, and it was published in the U.S. tabloid on June 2nd, 1981. Now what's interesting, subsequent inquiries into this case led UFO investigators to believe that it was actually a highly credible story. The architect in question, filming Oscar Zamora, and his friend, the judge, were adamant about the fact that their encounter was true. They were hiking in a remote area of the Andes Mountains when they stumbled upon a large UFO, with a cigar-shaped UFO, flat on top, that was about 239 feet away from them. They thought at first, in the next slide, they thought at first that it was a military plane of some kind. They were looking for insignia to help them understand what exactly they were looking at. When they saw the 6-foot-tall, hairy humanoid that could be mistaken for a gorilla, except for his face, which was a human-like face. Lucky for them, the being apparently did not see the two men, and so they continued to watch it quietly behind the shelter of some rock for over 15 minutes. And in the next slide, we find out that a metal ladder descended from the UFO, and this strange Bigfoot-like creature started to walk toward the UFO, moments after which the ship raised up like a helicopter, quieted, and then a few seconds later the UFO had disappeared with great speed, leaving the vegetation that had been completely burned up. So the architect and the judge remained silent about what they had witnessed because, of course, they were afraid of being ridiculed and possibly losing their positions. And this is just one of many other UFO cases that have occurred over the years, and Ruben, who is in the hotbed of Bigfoot country, I asked him to comment on other UFO cases involving Bigfoot that he's familiar with. So we're going to hear what Ruben has to say here in this next slide.
Absolutely, no. In fact, I'm familiar with one case myself where I spoke to the gentleman when I was in Puerto Rico, and he claimed that he saw a Bigfoot-like creature in the rainforest, which is known as a Yunque. And I found out later from other investigators that the Bigfoot phenomena is quite common in that area, which surprised me. But also, Bigfoot has been seen around the world. It's been seen from the Asian continent, in Asia, as well as North America and South America, and also specifically along the U.S.-Mexico border, which I find quite fascinating as well. And many times there are some cases where people have had a UFO sighting, and then within short moments they Bigfoot would appear. So it makes that an interesting connection.
And I'm going to close the presentation tonight by just briefly sharing with you 3 or 4 more fascinating cases that have happened more recently. On the next slide, we have a case from October 21, 1973, in which a lady and her 13-year-old son were sleeping in a trailer home in Cincinnati, Ohio, when they arose. The lady, Mrs. Hetfield, arose at 2:30 a.m. to have a drink when she noticed these strange lights in an adjoining parking lot. She looked out the window, and her attention was drawn to an inexplicable cone of light shaped like a huge bubble umbrella about 7 feet in diameter. And near the light was a grayish, ape-like creature with a large, downward angled snout, no neck, and a sizable waist. Moving slowly, it then entered into the light, and a few minutes later, both the ape man and the UFO disappeared. So another interesting case, and we highlight the fact that once again you have a humanoid creature, ape-like, with virtually no neck, which is a common description for these Bigfoot-like creatures. In the next slide, we have a case also from 1973. In fact, just a few days later in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, there was a dome-shaped UFO, brightly lit, about 100 feet in diameter, and a group of farmers approached it. They drove toward it when they saw a pair of gargantuan creatures covered with thick, matted hair, luminescent green eyes, and long arms that dangled below their knees. One of the farmer's sons fired a gunshot at the creatures, one of which raised its right hand in the air. At that very moment, the UFO disappeared, and then the 2 Bigfoot escaped into the woods and were never seen again. Going on to the next case, December 9th, 1974. A dairy farmer in Wisconsin was returning from a meeting about 10:30 p.m. when he nearly slammed into a globe-shaped or spherical UFO on the road in front of him. Its bottom half was enshrouded in what seemed to be a mist or fog. And inside the visible dome of the ship was a 6-foot-tall, ape-like creature with reddish-brown fur covering its body, except for its face, and distinctive pointed ears. It appeared to be operating a control panel. As Bosak passed by, the object suddenly arose and disappeared. So very interesting in this particular case that the creature actually appeared to be operating the controls of the ship. And the next and final slide that I have for you, August 1976, there were a series of UFO sightings in British Columbia, around Rutland in Canada. Several men and their children saw a hairy, ape-like entity, 6 to 7 feet tall, roaming about a mountainside. They also found a clump of hair that was sent to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for identification, and laboratory analysis confirmed it was primate hair, but significantly, it could not be matched to any known species on the Earth. So, in conclusion, in our book, The Real Cowboys and Aliens, and Ken, I don't know if you can switch over to a view of me for this final part.
Yeah, we're gonna put your pretty face back on here, huh?
All right, that's what I want to hear. Okay, hopefully I won't melt your equipment for my prettiness. Let's see if we can do the switch over. By the way, is Monty Earwood in attendance today?
No, Monty didn't make it tonight. We should have
Oh, darn it.
umbrella here last month. I brought it, so.
He is never going to hear the end of that from me, because he's always telling me how he enjoys his meetings, so.
I can't figure out how to get you full page, but if I ever do this again, we'll have to figure
That's
it out.
all right, that's all right.
Can you see,
So anyway,
can you see our
yeah.
clip from your side?
I can only see the upper right-hand quadrant of the screen, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any better? Whoa,
Don't take.
chewing gum.
I have a camera, a webcam just like that one.
I don't know why I can't see my webcam on my side.
That's all
Wait a
right.
minute, I know why. I'm seeing me, not you. My camera's not working right. See, that's me. Let's try this. I'm not a Skype guy, as you can tell.
I really, I use FaceTime a lot. Oh, wow, I can see everybody in attendance. Hello.
I apologize, Noe, all the way through this, we never saw your slides. But
Great.
we pulled it off.
Now, the audience on my slide, though, right?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
great, great.
That, on our side, it went very well.
Well,
Okay.
you got a fine-looking crowd there tonight.
We're blessed with a bunch of very inquisitive and intelligent people.
So Ken, in conclusion, I don't know, we have time to take a few questions, it's up to you, but I'm happy to, as I say, these cases from the 1800s are always very interesting to people. I had quite a number of questions after my presentation at the UFO Congress. And I just wondered if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask before we close my part of it.
I have a feeling.
Maybe you can relay those to me, Ken.
Question? Who's got a question?
I'll start a question.
Okay, you have a question?
Where'd you get the ET mannequin?
Oh, I didn't even know he was back there. Wow.
What's his
No,
name?
no, there's a company in Texas that distributes those alien figures, and I'll be happy to send the contact information to Ken if anyone's interested in acquiring some. They're based on actual eyewitness accounts. They're actual size of what the grays appear to be. And once again, based on hundreds of eyewitness descriptions, and they were created by a Hollywood special effects artist whose name escapes me right now, but once again, I could send all that info to Ken and he can let whoever is interested know about it. But I have 3 of those figures which I use to promote our UFO conferences and other events down here in the Rio Grande Valley. Very good question.
Did anybody in here ever experience a Bigfoot? At all? Bobby?
The sound is a little muffled.
Yeah, we're gonna give him a mic.
Well, back in about, let's see, 1969, a lady by the name of Sally Ann Clark, I wrote a book about the Lakewood monster up in Fort Worth, Texas. And I happened to be there, and I was an artist for the book that she had written. And also, I've written a couple of different books related to that, based on Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I will recap that. This lady by the name of Sally Ann Clark in Fort Worth, Texas, 1969, July. There was a flurry.
Again, none of that audio is coming through. I apologize. It sounds very, very distant.
How about that? Better?
How about me? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it sounds better there.
Yeah, I'm on a body mic. He's on a hand mic.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me recap that a little bit. 1969 in July, there was a flurry of Bigfoot sightings around Lakewood, Texas. And this lady by the name of Sally Ann Clark had written a book about that.
I'm sorry, what part of Texas?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, Fort Worth, okay.
Actually, it's called Lakewood, Texas, just outside of Fort Worth. And I was out there when she was actually taping the witnesses that were supposed to have saw the monster. And I watched and I got acquainted with her. And later, I actually drew the picture for the book that she had written, the front cover, and a couple other things. And of course, she's passed away now, but the book is still out there. And I've written a couple of different books related to the Lake Worth incident. And of course, they're not on Amazon now, but they will be shortly.
I would like to get the information on that book. If you could send it to me, Ken.
Okay, we'll do that. I'll give Bobby your, he's got a Facebook page, you can communicate with him through his Facebook.
Yes.
I'll give you his Facebook information.
What I have never run across, and it's extremely rare, are Bigfoot sightings in Texas, but surely there have been some, as is apparent from this lady's book. But I'd certainly like to know more about that, yeah.
One other thing is, a few months later, about that same area, there was a National Enquirer publication related to that same event, and they actually had a photo where it had happened, so somebody had seen it there. So I've never seen that photo other than in that National Enquirer, but I've never been able to get a copy of it since it was originally put out. I've lost my copy.
I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I heard most of that. Yeah, that sounded, the photo was published, but we've never actually found a copy of it. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it was in the National Enquirer about November, December timeline, 1969.
You know, there was some interesting stuff mixed in with all the ridiculous stuff in National Enquirer, so sometimes there were some interesting stories in there. So that would be interesting to find that. I'd like to invite everybody down to the Edinburgh UFO Conference again, Ken, if I could. It's happening March 30th and 31st. We've been getting an attendance for our lectures of between 500 and 1,000 people. And then the Friday night's event, which are held at the Friday night event, which is held at a local ranch, where a strange UFO incident happened in 1966, where a group of construction workers, we have multiple witnesses, a group of construction workers witnessed a UFO hovering above them that shot down beams of light, beams of fire, that burned all their construction equipment. Heavy machinery was burned to a crisp. The trailer house in which they were staying during that particular construction project, everything was burned to the ground in about a third of a mile radius. And you can actually still go there to the site, and you'll see burned rocks, and you'll see pieces of metal from the incident. So what we do in Edinburgh is we take people out to the location with the landowner's permission, and we recap the events of what happened in 1966 with one of the eyewitnesses who's still living. And we had just a great time. We had really good coverage from the media, and so anyway, March 30th and 31st of 2018, be sure and mark that on your calendar. We'd like to see you all down here. I know Monty Earwood brings his wonderful collection of sci-fi memorabilia. I don't know how many of y'all have seen all this stuff that he has. He has, you know, like Robbie the Robot. He has the robot from Lost in Space. He's been creating depictions of famous UFO events like Travis Walton's abduction and some of the stories that Ruben and I have read about. But Monty's a big supporter of our conferences, so we'd like to see everybody down here. Our website is edinburghufo.com. And Ken, were there any last thoughts before I go see how the Astros are
Well,
doing?
if you're gonna provide hot chocolate, we'll all be there in March. I know that Molly and I are gonna be coming.
Fantastic. We'll be happy
We
to
have
see you.
listen, we have a very interesting man on Skype. We'll probably give it a few more minutes. Anybody have any other questions? May not be related to the Bigfoot phenomenon, but anything else? I got one for you, Noah. Let me get over here by the mic.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an echo.
Yeah, the problem is the microphone's on the camera on the computer, and we
That's a perfect sound.
we did not
there.
provide an audio feed to the source, so that's why you're having a hard time. I'll fix that next time.
No problem.
Yeah, I've been hearing I've read something in Charles Hall's, one of his books, and I've had some things that I picked up here and there, that there might be an alien or maybe a subterranean civilization somewhere in the Big Bend area. Have you heard anything about?
Oh man, we had so much stuff. You know, we were on Mysteries of the Outdoors on the Travel Channel, and we gave them enough information for like maybe 10 shows, Ruben and I. We were both interviewed out there at Big Bend, and we ran across a lot of stories of interdimensional portals in the Big Bend area, and we shared all of this with the producers. We were hoping that they would include that. The first episode that came out, it mainly focused on other things that we talked about, but we're hoping that perhaps they will come up with a second episode from all the information that we gave them. But yes, to answer your question briefly, there is that long, this is not something new, this has been around the early part of the 20th century, that people have believed that there may be some kind of portal or some kind of gateway present, and some people have even associated the Martha Lights phenomenon with that, the possibility of that existing. So absolutely, and that's something that we definitely want to do more research into. Vernon comes down to Texas quite a bit, and he loves the Big Bend area. We've been out there on many occasions doing filming and also just doing personal research. It's I have to drag him away from the San Francisco area and tell him how much Texas has to offer. And he was a little skeptical at first, but now he's totally bought into it.